So I've posted some videos on this channel of me sim racing, but I never really went into the rig itself that I actually have. So today what I want to do is go over that rig. I started about 6 months ago from complete scratch, didn't have a PC even, I've never tried iRacing. I kind of just jumped in and learned as I went. So now that it's been 6 months, I did start a video, which was a time lapse of me kind of building everything, which I want to now finish, and kind of give a review about the things that I wish I would have known when I started, or some things about the products that I actually did buy and what I like and don't like about them. So if you're looking to get into sim racing, maybe this video will help you make a decision about what to buy and some things to avoid. And if anything else, just enjoy watching me struggle trying to put things together when I have no idea what I'm doing. So this is episode 5. So first I have to build the PC. So let's unbox everything here. I was a little nervous doing this because I've never done it before, but when I put the CPU on the motherboard, it crunched and I wasn't sure if I messed it up. There was really no way to tell until I finished. So I just kept going, and the other things were pretty much plug and play. Power supply was a little bit of a pain because I didn't know where to plug anything in, so I kind of had to Google it as I went. Got the massive GPU fit in there by bending the case, and yeah, then spent 2 hours trying to mount these fans with the GPU already in there, and ended up taking those fans back and replacing them because they were garbage anyways. But yeah, let's see here, moment of truth. Alright, cool, so now that's out of the way. I had to update some drivers and install Windows and all that, and one of the drivers was the Wi-Fi, so I had to rig this together because that was the longest Ethernet cord I had in the house. And yeah, it's a little roller shot here of getting it operational and changing the RGB to be white, just like I wanted it to be. And yeah, the computer works, so that's awesome. That's my old rig there, the Play Seat Challenge. I took it to the basement. Now to download iRacing. That's Bean. Hello. This part was probably the most daunting out of all of it, because I knew that it was going to be a pain, and wasn't really sure where I was going to put it, but well, hey, let's just get started. So, first things first, open up all the boxes and see what I got. The first two were just all 4080 aluminum profile, and nothing was labeled, so I kind of sorted it by length to figure out what I had. And this last box here was just thousands of bolts, mounting brackets, hardware, and again, nothing's labeled. So I started looking online, and I'm not really finding any instructions, so I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed, but I did find an instruction manual that had pictures, at least, of, you know, how it was put together, so that kind of guided me, and I just started going. So first I started with the base and assembled all that. Went on to the pedals, and I knew I had to get the seat mounted, so I started there and really wasn't sure what I was doing, and had I done it over again, I probably would have done something differently, but I got it crooked and I just couldn't leave it, so, but I needed to move on. So I went over to the wheelbase mounts and got that all assembled there, and the little armrest where the shifter goes and the accessories, and continued through the night, and eventually ran out of time. So we got to the next day here and started over again. Got the pedal, adjusted the chair for a couple hours once again, and then I got to the mounting brackets. And here I put the brackets on the base before putting the monitors on, which was really dumb. And had I done it over, obviously would have put the mounts on the monitors first, but it is what it is. So once it's all said and done though, it's looking really good, and honestly, like, I can't wait to get going. So overall, it feels really good. And the whole reason why I built this aluminum profile rig was so I could upgrade my wheel and pedals to become a faster racer. But I will say it feels very sturdy, and having the monitors on the side really helps for spatial awareness for oval racing or open wheel or really anything you could be doing. So one of these days I'll upgrade the wheel. Alright, so we're back, and what you just watched was my first attempt at making a YouTube video 6 months ago. So whatever, it is what it is. So now what I would like to do is go over the different products that I actually used to build this rig. So I'll start with the PC. When you're building a PC, you really have to establish a budget of what you want to spend, or else you could spend unlimited amount of money building the most monstrous PC known to man. But within my budget, I was able to build a really, really good gaming PC, because I knew I also wanted to use it for things like working and audio editing, video editing, and different things like that. So I ended up going with the B650 Tomahawk for the motherboard. And then I was going to get the AMD Ryzen 7800 X3D or 7 series, whatever it's called. But it was actually the same price for me to get the model above that, which is the Ryzen 9. So I went with that particular CPU. For the GPU, graphics card, I went with the Tough Gaming version of the NVIDIA 4080 Super. So I did 32 gigabytes of RAM, deep cool AK620 CPU cooler, just because I liked that it had a digital display screen on it saying the temperature. Everything I went with, I'm pretty pleased with this computer. I've been using it for about 6 months. It's crashed twice, but that was probably because I'm running iRacing on triple monitors and have other things of streaming, and I'm doing all kinds of things. So for the most part though, it's handled everything very well. The gaming looks great. Everything looks awesome, and it performs very well. So I couldn't be more pleased. The only thing I bought that I did not like was the fans. So the Cooler Master Mobius 140p fans were absolute garbage. So I replaced those with Light Wings fans, and those were much better, and they look way cooler. So the case that I ended up getting was the Fractal Design North case. I got the black version with the wood front. I think this looks cool, and it turned out pretty well. So 6 months on, it's still working, it's still doing great. So I'm very happy with the PC build. So let's talk about the good stuff, the rig itself. It is an aluminum profile rig from a company called Rig Metal. They're out of the Northwest United States, and I did a ton of research when looking for these. I knew I wanted aluminum profile, and as far as pricing goes, it was the absolute best deal that I could find. I decided pretty early on that I wanted to go with a triple screen setup, and they had a bundle that was the complete rig itself with the triple screen stands together, and the pricing you can't beat it, and the product itself, 5 stars. Highly recommend if you're looking for an aluminum profile rig for a decent price. I decided to go with triple screens over the other options like doing an ultra wide or VR, mainly because I wanted to do oval racing, and I knew that having triple screens gave me the widest field of view. Having spatial awareness when cars are to your left and right is very important for oval racing. And as far as price goes, it was about the same, so that's why I went that route. VR, I was a little worried about maybe giving me headaches or if I would like it, so I didn't go that direction. And with an ultra wide, like I said, you don't get as much field of view, so I decided to go with the triple screens. I went with 32-inch LGs. They're 2K resolution, I think like 165 hertz. They do have G-Sync built in, so that was kind of an added bonus with having the NVIDIA GPU. It's very clear. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And the fourth monitor is just a cheap Amazon, it's like 27-inch Scepter monitor. I had to buy an extra mounting piece, which is from Trak Racer, to get the fourth monitor mounted to this setup. But as far as the rig goes and the monitors, that's what I've used. The next thing was the seat. So I actually ordered an NRG Prisma Ultra, which is not what I ended up getting. I just got the regular NRG seat, but it's this pretty much the exact same seat with a different design. I went with the large version because I heard they were relatively small, and it's true. It's a pretty snug fit as it is right now, but it's very comfortable. I could sit here for hours and feel great. And one of the things that I really wanted to have was like an Alcantara, like a suede finish on the seat, and it feels amazing. So I'm very happy with it. The next thing that I did was a few months later, I upgraded the wheel and the pedals. So for the wheel, I went with a Simagic setup. So I have a Alpha Mini, which is a 12 Newton meter direct drive wheelbase, and the wheel that I got was the Simagic GT Neo. It's a very versatile wheel. You can use it for formula races or GT races. It has paddle clutches, it has paddle shifters, obviously, tons of mappable buttons, and it was a relatively newer wheel when I ordered it, and it got really good reviews, and I'm super happy with it. The interface for the software for both the wheelbase and the steering wheel itself is very good. So I'm pretty happy with the wheelbase and wheel setup that I have now. And going from the G29, which is I think like 1.5 Newton meters, to this 12 Newton meters, it's a pretty drastic jump. It will rip out of your hands, and they make them much more powerful than this. But for me, I mean, it's about as strong as I want to fight the wheel anyway. So it's a good feeling to drive. It feels very realistic. For the pedals, I went with the Fanatec Clubsport V3s. A few reasons. One, I got them for $100 off, brand new, off of eBay, which was a pretty good deal. And Fanatec was having problems at the time, so I don't know if those have been resolved or not. But the reason why I went with these particular wheels was, as far as bang for the buck goes, the design, they're built pretty sturdy. The load cell brake was a must have for me. I wanted to have a clutch pedal because I knew I wanted to race like older cars. And then one of the main things that set these apart was the built-in haptic feedback. So there's little electric motors on the accelerator pedal and the brake pedal that you can set to basically vibrate for haptic feedback for different things that happen. So if you want to set it for when your brake traction, when you're accelerating on the gas pedal, or when your anti-lock brakes kick in on the brake pedal, you can set them to that. But I actually didn't end up using that very much because they were very noisy and almost distracting. So looking back in retrospect, I might not have went with these particular pedals knowing that I wasn't going to actually use the haptic feedback. But they do feel good. They've worked great. I have not had any issues with them. So for the price and what you get, I still think it was a good solid buy. For some of the accessories that I ended up getting, I got a shifter off of Amazon as well. It was a cheap one. It's an H pattern shifter. It had an attachment that you can turn it into a sequential, which I've never used. But it works, and I've had good luck with it so far, so no complaints there. When I switched wheels from the GT Neo to the one that I bought off of Amazon for oval racing, I needed some buttons to be able to map for when I'm driving in the cockpit. So I actually came up with a couple different solutions. So I bought a old Nintendo controller off of Amazon, a USB version that was like $8, and I just basically mapped the buttons to do different things, like changing the black box or setting how much, what I want to take left or right tires, stuff like that. And then I have a 3-key keyboard mounted on the other side for like getting in and out of the car, and push to talk for the radio and some other things. So took a little bit of getting used to, but it was a cheaper solution, spending about $8 to do that than buying like a button box, which would have been a couple $100. One of the most important things that I bought in this entire setup was this fan. When you're sitting here for races that go sometimes over 100 laps, these screens put out so much heat and it gets so hot. So having this fan here was an absolute must. Another accessory I got was I got armrest pads that go onto the shifter, and it's nice. Gives me a little armrest for when I'm driving longer races, and it kind of gives it a more of a cockpit feel, and it makes it look a little bit nicer and feel a little nicer. So that was pretty cheap. Got it off Amazon, so I would recommend getting something like that as well. The audio setup is all stuff that I use for when I'm recording music, so I just have that hooked up here. I have a Scarlett interface that's my mic, and this is a cheap condenser mic off of Amazon that's plugged into that interface, which goes into a Behringer headphone amplifier, which goes into a little 2-speaker stereo that I've had for the last 15 years, a little Sony. So another big thing I recommend doing is getting a pair of gloves. At first I thought it was like kind of corny, like you're sim racing, like what do you need gloves for? But once I started doing it and realizing that it does actually like hurt your hands when you're wrestling with 12 Newton meters of force feedback, gloves completely changes the game, and it makes it so much more comfortable. And I just went with this pair here, and weren't that expensive, but I can't race without them now. So that's the whole setup, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out, to be honest with you. The mouse pad and the keyboard tray also came with the rig bundle that I bought, so that was a nice touch. And since I started doing iRacing, I've joined a local league, the Ohio Sim Racing League. We actually have our championship race this Thursday. I've done some of the season championships for iRacing, and I won a couple of those in Division 4, and it's nice. They give you a little certificate that you can print out and put on the wall, so that's pretty cool too. So my ultimate goal is to win the iRacing Indy 500. So came close last year, but we'll try again next year.
Now it is time for the Pretentious Hipsters Weekly Review with Nigel P. Snodgrass.
Sonic Youth, the noise rock leviathans who sauntered through the 1980s and 90s, strumming the apocalypse with their dissonant guitars and nonchalant scowls. They didn't just play music, mind you. They orchestrated an assault on every known convention of melody, structure, and taste, like a high art demolition crew tasked with bulldozing rock and roll itself. Thurston Moore, Lee Ronaldo, Steve Shelley, and of course the inimitable Kim Gordon crafted music that seemed allergic to clarity, embracing noise as a higher form of enlightenment. Sonic Youth were never about hooks or chart positions. Good heavens, no. They were about sound as a weapon, sound as an art form, sound as a discordant muse. Their albums, oh, where to begin? Daydream Nation is, naturally, the classic that broke them into the mainstream, or at least the part of the mainstream with black coffee and Nietzsche quotes on hand. Tracks like Teenage Riot and Silver Rocket somehow transformed cacophony into near-spiritual epiphany, like monks chanting in a crumbling cathedral. Then there's Goo, that twisted portrait of Americana bathed in distortion, and Dirty, where their flirtation with the commercial meets a wall of feedback so dense it could stun a wildebeest. But let us not be seduced by mere nostalgia, for Sonic Youth's genius has always lain in their perpetual reinvention, their unwavering commitment to the cutting edge. And who better exemplifies that spirit than Kim Gordon herself? Ah, yes, our heroine has done it again. Her latest solo effort, The Collective, finds Gordon channeling that same confrontational spirit, but through the warped lenses of dub, trap, and industrial soundscapes, as if she's distilled the digital detritus of the 2020s into an experimental noise opera. This is no tired echo of Sonic Youth's glory days. The Collective is a raw, feral exploration of our fractured digital selves. And let's not forget her superb live band who carried this vision onto the stage. Touring with Maddie Vogt on drums, Sarah Register on guitar, and the legendary Camilla Bass Killer Charlesworth on bass and synths, Gordon's live performance took the collective to new, thrilling heights. Vogt's drumming was a primal heartbeat, Register's guitar slashed through the noise with surgical precision, and Charlesworth, well, her bass lines could register on the Richter scale. Together, they transformed each show into a visceral experience, each note like a brushstroke on a Jackson Pollock canvas, chaotic, frenetic, and utterly mesmerizing. In sum, Sonic Youth's legacy lives on not as a nostalgic relic, but as a restless spirit of defiance and invention. And with the collective, Kim Gordon carries that torch forward, proving once again that the true avant-garde isn't afraid to confront the noise. No, it revels in it.
All right, listener, get ready, because we're going deep with this week's movie reviews.
Oh, this should be good.
Yeah, they're from Chad over at Midwest Coast. And let me tell you, this guy, he doesn't stick to just one genre, you know?
Oh, really? What kind of movies are we talking about?
Well, we got a little bit of everything, really. He's got some spine-tingling horror, and then he jumps into, like, classic action flicks.
Wow.
And then there's this techno thriller. I think it'll make you, think twice about all the smart devices in your home.
Interesting. So like a mix of like escapism and then like some stuff that really makes you think.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know, it's almost like we're piecing together a puzzle, trying to figure out, like, you know, what makes him tick as a movie fan.
Right. So where do we start with this puzzle then?
Okay, well, let's start with the horror stuff. Okay, so he kicks things off with 2 Shudder exclusives. There's Mads and Daddy's Head.
Ooh, Shudder. Always a good sign.
Right. Now, Mads, it caught my eye because, it's filmed in one take.
What, like the whole movie?
Yeah, like no cuts or edits, just one, like, continuous shot. Can you imagine how intense that must be?
Oh, yeah. Especially for a horror movie. I feel like that would just, like, heighten the tension.
Right. Like, it would just, I don't know. You'd be right there with the characters experiencing, like, every single terrifying moment.
Yeah. It leaves you nowhere to hide. You're just trapped there.
Ooh, that's giving me chills just thinking about it. Okay, so then there's Daddy's Head.
Okay. The title alone, kind of creepy.
No, right. And from what I gather from Chad's review, it looks like it involves some kind of creature.
Okay.
That looks like the main character's, deceased father.
Ooh, that's getting into like some deep-seated fears, right? Like playing with the whole uncanny thing.
It's Harry, yeah.
Yeah. Like when something familiar becomes like strange and unsettling, what's more familiar than your own father?
Okay, yeah, but like imagine that twisted into like something monstrous.
Exactly. It just messes with your head.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely nightmare material.
Oh.
Okay, but then for his third horror pick, Chad goes a little old school. He chose The Funhouse by Tobe Hooper.
Okay. Tobe Hooper, the guy who made Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yep, that's the one. So we're talking like master of horror, you know?
Yeah. He had a way of creating this like visceral, almost suffocating atmosphere, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. But this movie, though, The Funhouse,
yeah.
What's interesting is that it's set in a carnival.
A carnival.
A carnival. Think about that. Carnivals are supposed to be, fun.
Yeah, they are.
But then there's always this like underlying, I don't know, sense of unease, with all the like flickering lights, distorted mirrors, and the feeling of being watched. It's kind of like, it's a perfect setup for a horror movie, right?
Yeah, it's true. You don't often see carnivals used as a backdrop in horror movies, though.
Right. And I mean, think about it. There's so many inherently creepy things about them, right? Like, the hidden corners and like the strange characters.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what could be lurking like beneath the surface, right?
Yeah, it makes you question like what happens when the facade of like fun and games fades away, right? Like, what horrors are just hiding like right there beneath the surface of like our everyday lives.
Okay, so that's making me wonder, are you saying Chad might be drawn to these types of movies because they like reflect some deeper anxieties about, the world around him?
It's possible, right? Horror often acts as a mirror to our societal fears. And the carnival, I mean, with its mix of like excitement and danger, It could be a metaphor, right? Like for the uncertainties and all the hidden threats we face, in our own lives.
Wow. Never thought about it like that. Okay, so Chad clearly has a thing for like horror that really messes with your mind.
Yeah. But let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about this action pick.
Yeah.
He chose, get this, sudden death.
starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now we're talking like 90s action gold.
Ah, Van Damme. He was like a force of nature in those 90s action movies.
He really was.
What's interesting about him, though, is that he like brought this unique blend of like athleticism and humor, even vulnerability sometimes, you know, to his roles.
Yeah, he wasn't just a muscle-bound tough guy. He had charisma, you know?
Yeah. You could tell he wasn't like taking himself too seriously.
Exactly. Which made those like over-the-top fight scenes even more entertaining.
Oh, totally. And in Sudden Death, let me tell you, you've got him battling terrorists during the Stanley Cup Finals.
Can you imagine? Talk about high stakes. So you've got hockey fans, a hostage situation, and then, of course, Van Damme and his, like, signature roundhouse kicks.
What more could you ask for in an action movie?
Right. It's just pure escapism.
Yeah, but it also taps into those classic, like, action movie themes, like, you know, heroism, patriotism, good versus evil.
You got that lone hero fighting against, like, all odds to save the day.
And doing it with style.
Don't forget the style.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got horror that messes with your mind,
right,
and then action that gets your, like, heart pumping. But what about this techno-thriller pick, Afraid?
This one, oh man, it sounds like it could be ripped from today's headlines.
Really?
What's it about?
Well, it deals with AI and smart home technology.
Oh, wow.
Which, you know, it's pretty relevant in our hyper-connected world.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, think about it. We just invite these devices into our homes to, you know, to make life easier.
Yeah, to make life easier.
But what happens when they turn on us?
Ooh, that is a scary thought.
It's like, I don't know, our worst tech nightmares all coming true.
Right.
And I think that's what Afraid is exploring, like our growing anxieties about technology having, you know, too much control.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if we're like becoming too reliant on it.
Right. Like, are we sacrificing our privacy for like convenience?
Exactly.
And Chad mentioned that the movie has a really likable cast. Oh, and also some super dark moments.
So it sounds like it's not just like a mindless, you know, scare fest.
No. It sounds more like a psychological thriller.
A psychological thriller. Okay.
Yeah. Like exploring the darker side of our relationship with, you know, technology.
It makes you think about the unintended consequences of our dependence on these devices.
Right. Like, where do we draw the line between, you know, convenience and control? Mm-hmm. So we've got horror that messes with your mind, action that gets your blood pumping, and a techno-thriller that makes you question, like, the devices you rely on every day.
It's been interesting, right? We've covered so much.
Yeah, we went from that eerie horror to those, you know, high-kicking action movies.
Right.
We even touched on those AI thrillers that really make you think.
It's been a journey.
And we found some pretty fascinating stuff about Chad's taste, you know. He's definitely drawn to movies that, like, challenge expectations, movies that, you know, blend genres.
Right.
And explore, you know, some pretty thought-provoking themes.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the most interesting thing here is that it's not just about the movies themselves.
What do you mean?
It's about how he's using Midwest Coast to, like, share what he's found.
Oh, right.
You know, he's sparking those conversations.
That's what makes this whole deep dive so intriguing to me.
Yeah.
It's a glimpse into how these online communities are shaping our relationship with film.
In this digital age.
Exactly. I mean, think about it, right? We've got this massive library of movies.
At our fingertips.
Right. But it's like, how do we even navigate it? It's overwhelming.
It really is. It's easy to get lost in those algorithms, right?
Yeah.
You end up just watching whatever's trending.
Or what Netflix thinks you'll like. Yeah.
But you might miss out on those, you know, hidden gems.
The films that really speak to you.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's where Midwest Coast and, you know, platforms like it really come in.
Yeah.
They offer this different way of, like, finding movies.
It's curation driven by, you know, passion.
Yeah. And personal taste.
Right. Chad's reviews, I mean, they're not just summaries, you know. They're invitations to, like, explore.
To think critically.
And to connect with other movie lovers.
It's like he's created his own film festival, you know. He's handpicking these movies that, like, challenge and inspire him.
And then he's saying, hey, come join this conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in doing that, well, he's kind of challenging the idea that watching films is this, you know, solitary experience.
It's becoming more social, this shared journey.
So as we wrap up here, we want to leave you with a question to, like, think about.
Okay.
In a world dominated by algorithms and, you know, streaming services, how are online communities like Midwest Coast shaping our film preferences? And, well, how are they fostering this sense of, you know, connection through those shared passions?
It's a really good question. And one that's worth thinking about, especially as we navigate this ever-changing landscape of, watching movies.
So go check out Midwest Coast, dive into the community there.
Yeah, discover some new films.
And share your own cinematic passions with the world.
It's all about keeping that sense of wonder alive, The thrill of finding that film that really speaks to you and then sharing that with others.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy watching.
So, that has been this week's show, and thank you for watching. If you liked or learned anything or just enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and leave comments below with any feedback you might have. Today is November 5th. This has been episode 5, and you can join in next week when we make this episode live on Twitch. You could join on this Thursday when I'm racing for the Ohio Sim Racing League Championship. Or you could post to our forum at www.mwcoast.com. So until next week, I'll see you then, hopefully as champion.